From announcing that he might retire after his showdown with Miocic, to holding an unbeatable streak that fans aren't ready to let go of. Here's how Jon Jones hinted at retirement. Yup, apparently we're reaching the end of this glorious chapter. Jon has had an awesome career. Sure, there have been times when he's messed up, and even permanently stained his legacy. But the fact remains that Jones has proven himself to be one of the best to do it, if not the best. Sadly, he recently came out and announced how he might end up retiring after his fight with Miocic. It's always pretty weird to hear that a legend like him might be hanging up his gloves. But hey, there's still a chance he might stay in the game. Jones came out and talked about how he'd be willing to delay retirement if Francis Ngannou made a comeback in the UFC. Ngannou is one of the fighters that Jon has wanted to fight against, but never really got the chance to. By the time he made the switch to heavyweight, Ngannou had already dipped from the MMA scene entirely. Apparently, Francis thought he'd earn more money as a free agent, as opposed to back when he was still the heavyweight champion. Seeing how he's been doing lately, there's a pretty good chance he'll choose to rejoin. There's also a good chance that he won't get a ticket back to the top either. So if he does decide to come back, he'll have to climb his way back up to the top. That should delay Jones's retirement by a good amount. Still, we're basing all this on an if. The more likely scenario is Jones wins or loses the championship and hangs up his gloves either way. I have to say, if Jones ends up losing the very last fight of his career, the fans won't let him hear the end of it. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Jon will definitely be trying his hardest to take home the final win of his career, which makes his potential fight with Stipe Miocic even more exciting. These guys have been going at it with each other all year long, throwing subtle jabs and shade at each other's way. One thing's for sure, and that's the fact that their fight will be legendary. I mean, just look at the facts. Miocic is regarded as the greatest heavyweight fighter of all time. Jones is GOATed. Period. So now that Jones has decided to invade Stipe's territory, you can bet that things will get ugly. Besides, what could be better than getting to watch two huge dudes beat the crap out of each other? If you ask me, it's a match made in heaven. Dana recently announced how the fight is in the works, and the deal is still being finalized. Y'all have to remember, at the end of the day, it's all just business. If either one of them doesn't bring in a good contract, well, we'll probably never see them fight in the octagon. Though, now that Dana has come out and talked about the fight, we can rest assured that something really is about to happen. Plus, Jones hasn't exactly been quiet about the whole thing either. He's tweeted out multiple times making fun of Miocic and claiming he'll dominate him in the ring if he ever gets the chance. I'm not sure how Miocic feels about that statement, but one thing's for sure, this fight can end up going either way. Though first we need to figure out whether the fight's gonna happen or not. Us fans have spent well over 3 years wondering whether we'll get to see this masterpiece in our lifetime. Now, as both of these fighters are reaching the end of the line, it all seems to be coming together. Dana White recently came out and talked about the fight. Thankfully, he had a bunch of info for us that actually seemed to be useful. White talked about how the fight was under discussion and the contracts were being finalized. So far, both parties seem to be happy with everything, and it looks like the fight will take place sometime soon. Dana also came out and mentioned that the UFC is trying to get the fight to happen at UFC 295. If that's true, then we'll get to see Jones face off against Stipe in the middle of Madison Square Garden. Bones decided to take things a step further by posting a few tweets making fun of Miocic. In his latest tweet, Jones talked about how he was going to enjoy destroying Miocic in his hometown. From what I can tell, Jon doesn't consider Miocic much of a challenge and seems to be very confident in his ability to win. Still, it's worth noting that Miocic is known as the greatest heavyweight of all time for a reason, and that this will probably be Jon's toughest fight yet. This begs the question, who has the best chance of winning this fight? Well, let's take a look at both guys individually, starting with Stipe Miocic. Considering how heavyweight is home to Miocic, it makes sense to start off with him, no? He's known to be the only heavyweight fighter in history to have defended his title 3 times in a row, while also managing to win it twice throughout his career. He's lethal in the octagon, and often manages to get his wins via knockout. Talk about making sure his opponents have no chance, eh? The man just doesn't leave his fights up for debate on the judges' scorecard. Stipe is known to be a heavy hitter, so you definitely don't want to risk getting knocked out by this man. He's the kind of guy to jab at you once and permanently injure your jaw. Jones will have to stay wary, because if he slips up even once, he might end up costing him the fight. Still, there's a good chance that Jones will end up getting lucky with a shot or two, and end up taking home the win with ease. Miocic also has an insane ability to combine his size, power, and speed to deliver the perfect combo every time. His opponents never see it coming, and he manages to sneak past their defense with ease. It's almost impossible to stop him once he gets going, so Jon is going to have his work cut out for him. While we're still on the subject, y'all are probably wondering how Jones will end up doing in the fight. Through trial and error, Jon Jones has managed to prove to us just how awesome of a fighter he is. He's unstoppable, ruthless, lethal, and just a beast overall. Unlike Miocic, Jones has never actually been beaten in the octagon. As I mentioned before, people tend to count his weird loss for those illegal elbows he threw at Matt Hamill. However, if you ask me, that loss should have been overturned long ago, and it was a rookie mistake on his part. Since then, he's gone on to wreck every fighter that's come in his path, and it doesn't look like he'll be stopping anytime soon. Back when he entered the heavyweight division and was facing off against Gane, no one expected him to win with such ease. Yet Jones managed to destroy Gane in under 2 minutes. Honestly, it takes a special kind of genius to be able to dismantle a fighter like that. It seemed like no matter what Gane tried, he wasn't able to overpower Jon. Whether it came to the ground game or striking while standing up, Jones was able to outclass him at every turn. Now that he's facing off against Miocic, you can expect Jones to focus more on his ground game. He's great at BJJ, and while Miocic isn't that bad either, the fact remains that Jon is simply better in that department. It'll be fun to see what actually ends up happening, though there is some bad news that Jones announced on the socials a while back. At this point, he's cemented his legacy as the GOAT. Okay, when I talk about his unbeaten record, I'm talking about how he's genuinely never been beaten inside the octagon. The only time this man lost was when he was beating the ever-living shit out of Matt Hamill, and ended up accidentally hitting him with an upright elbow. In case y'all don't know, that's illegal, and it ended up costing him the win. Anybody who knows anything about the sport will agree that nobody really counts that loss. Jones has been dominant throughout his career. Even when he returned back at UFC 285, he dominated Ciryl Gane and took home the title in 2 minutes flat. If that isn't some legendary stuff, then I don't know what is. Jon has managed to overcome everybody the UFC has thrown his way, and he's done it in style too. Just take a look back at when he was facing off against Daniel Cormier. Both times they faced off against one another, Johnny Bones predicted exactly how he was going to break him down, and how Cormier wasn't going to be able to do anything about it. The fight ended up going exactly as planned, and that was the moment when many MMA fans accepted Jones's greatness in the octagon. Fingers crossed for more greatness ahead. So, from holding an unbeaten record throughout his career to announcing that he'll retire after his showdown with Miocic, that was Jon Jones hinting at his retirement.